When I say Resident Evil, a lot of different things may come to mind. Maybe it's the movie of the same name, or the immensely popular Resident Evil 4. But for me, it's the GameCube remake of the original Resident Evil that springs to mind first. It's a masterclass in tension and cinematic horror, and there hasn't been a game that scratches the same itch ever since. It's 1998, and there are bizarre murders happening around Raccoon City. Apparently, the victims were not only being murdered, but also eaten afterwards. The Raccoon local police department sent out an elite group of special tactics and rescue service members, also known as STARS, to investigate. After a while, the original Bravo team went missing somewhere in the surrounding forest. This is where Alpha Team steps in to figure out what happened. They soon discover the crashed helicopter of the original team, along with its pilot completely torn to pieces. This is when Alpha Team realizes they're not alone. Shortly after this discovery, we see one of the STARS members being attacked by a pack of monstrous dogs. One of our protagonists, Jill, sees it happen right before her eyes. She unloads a full clip of her pistol to no avail. She's completely in shock until the dogs turn their attention to her. Just before it's too late, our second main character Chris comes in to rescue Jill. Together with the remaining STARS members Barry and Wesker, they make a run for a nearby mansion. This is where the game begins. I think this opening cutscene does an amazing job of introducing the plot, characters and tone of the game. The facial expressions are done especially well for the time. Not bad for a game released in 2002. When you start a new playthrough of Resident Evil, you can play as either Chris or Jill. Both characters have different strengths and weaknesses, and the story also changes quite a bit depending on who you choose. Jill is the more forgiving character, as she has 8 inventory slots, a lockpick for certain doors and has access to some strong weapons early on. She does have a small health pool though. Chris, on the other hand, has a large health pool and is more proficient in combat. He only has 6 inventory slots, and he doesn't have the lockpick, so if you pick Chris, you've got to plan ahead a lot more. That's why I recommend playing Jill on your first playthrough. This game uses so-called tank controls, just like the original on the PlayStation 1. This means when you press up on the D-pad, your character will move forward independent of the camera angle. When you press down, your character will step backwards instead of turning around. This makes the gameplay quite slow and methodical. In the HD remaster, which I'm playing right now, you can also select an alternative control scheme. But I think it makes your character way too floaty, and you can feel the game isn't designed around this modern style. Movement has a lot more weight to it when using the classic tank controls. The main reason the developers chose this control scheme is because the game uses pre-rendered backgrounds. The camera changes position at predetermined points in the level. If you use the control scheme that's relative to the camera, it can be quite annoying to deal with. But at the end of the day, it's personal preference. Play around with the settings and see what you like. In this game, you're not a one-man army. A single zombie can kill you if you're not careful. Zombies can take multiple bullets before they go down. Since ammo is scarce, it's sometimes better to try and run past them. Some guns have a higher chance of hitting a critical headshot, like when you use the powerful Magnum or aim up with the shotgun. The crunch you hear when you land one never gets old. Whenever you kill a zombie and fail to take off its head, it becomes a ticking time bomb. After a while they come back to life as Crimson Heads. They're armed with claws and are extremely aggressive and agile. There is a way to prevent zombies from becoming Crimson Heads, and that's by burning their corpses. But this requires fuel, which is finite and takes up inventory space, as well as a lighter. As you progress further into the game, you encounter new kinds of enemies with their own strengths and weaknesses. It definitely keeps you on your toes. Aside from fighting and running, you'll mostly be exploring and solving puzzles. The puzzles are of a perfect difficulty in my opinion. They make you think for a bit, but never for too long. As long as you examine everything, you should be fine. The level design in this game is very well thought out. The sense of progression you feel when you finally unlock a door that's been locked for the whole game is exhilarating. Hallways and corridors loop back around on each other, and you'll quickly figure out optimal routes. I bet if you ask someone who's played this game to draw a map of the mansion from memory, they get pretty far. That says a lot about the genius level design. The final piece of the Resident Evil gameplay puzzle is the ammo and inventory management. This is what elevates the gameplay loop to a whole new level. You have limited saves in this game, and even less so when you play on the higher difficulties. The only places where you can save your progress are save rooms with typewriters. These rooms also contain an item box which connect to other save rooms. You can probably see where I'm going with this. These mechanics put the survival in survival horror. You're constantly thinking about the last time you saved, or if you should heal or press on a little further. Which route are you going to take? The item I just found, where can I use it? You get in this survival mindset and it's awesome. The limited saves create this fear of death that an autosave system completely negates. This is true survival horror. A horror movie director will try and use clever camera angles and editing to evoke a sense of fear and uncertainty in the viewer. It's the not knowing what's around the next corner that creeps people out. Take James Wan's The Conjuring, for example. Just take a look at the way he frames his shots. It's very effective. Don't worry, no jump scares, I promise. I particularly like the clever use of shadows and low angles. If you haven't watched the film yet, I highly recommend you do so. In most games, the player has full control over the camera, which is great for gameplay, but limits the amount the developers can guide the player through a scare. The first Resident Evil is one of the few video games that merges cinematography with gameplay. The fixed camera angles give the game a uniquely cinematic feel, which first and third person games simply can't. The pre-rendered backgrounds have an immense amount of detail in them, and they are just beautiful to look at. These graphics are over 20 years old. It's mind-blowing. The fixed camera angles are also very effective to set up scares. Take this moment for example. You walk into the room and see a zombie shambling towards you. It's nothing out of the ordinary, until you notice the zombie's arms entering the frame. You were looking into a mirror the whole time. Or this scene, where you see the shadow of a zombie being cast through the window. Nothing happens, until you come through this hallway again later on. The game also makes great use of environmental storytelling. The world feels believable and lived in. Every now and then you'll come across a note that gives you a tip or a bit of backstory. The rate at which you find these is incredibly well paced. I never felt like I was reading too much. The original Resident Evil cut out an important character from the story. Thankfully, this remake added her back in. I'm talking of course about Lisa Trevor. She's a terrifying and welcome addition to this game. I won't go over her backstory for the people who haven't played this game yet. The original game is known for the incredibly bad and campy voice acting. Alright Richard, take it away.
Richard, what happened?
Oh Jill, this house is dangerous. There are terrible demons. Ouch!
You're wounded. What kind of demon attacked you?
It was a huge snake and also poisonous. Ugh.
Poisonous? Oh no. Richard, hold on.
That scene never gets old. The remake goes for a more grounded tone, which better fits the game. It's still quite campy, but it never goes overboard.
Richard! What happened? You're wounded.
This whole place is a killing zone.
Remake feels like a late night B-movie though, but that's part of the charm.
Wesker.
Jill, so you're safe.
The story is a nice mystery to unravel, and there are multiple endings depending on which characters escape the mansion. This, combined with the dual protagonist setup, makes for massive replay value. One thing I have to mention as well is the stellar sound design and soundtrack. It's very understated and atmospheric. Awesome stuff. Resident Evil Remake has a very unique blend of a fresh gameplay loop set to amazing looking backdrops. It's still a game worth playing 2 decades after release. If that isn't the hallmark of a masterpiece, then I don't know what is. There are some awesome titles in the Resident Evil series after this game, but this is a tough one to beat. This is true survival horror. Thank you so much for watching till the end. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, so you get notified when I upload. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Alright, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.